and you. It's a Saturday morning. I'm here Saturday because this weekend, it's a beautiful weekend. I got some things to do. So tomorrow morning, this guy actually may even take it for himself, taking a Sunday for myself, which is something that we all have to do. So thanks for joining me here on a Saturday, on a beautiful hot Saturday here once again in the province of Southern Ontario. I'm Frank Flowers, aka Frankie Flowers. If you've never joined me before, I'm a 4-time best-selling garden author. I have the 10,000 hours plus when it comes to answering garden questions and actually helping you with your vegetable garden, your flower garden, your indoor plants, even your lawns that are out there. And even if you have any design questions as well. I come here each and every weekend to kind of help guide you through, and you can watch us at any time at your leisure. The community that's on here is also here to help you with your garden questions as well. So if you have some questions, pop them in the comments. I'll try to get as many as possible in during this conversation that we'll have over the next half hour, but as well as the community will pop on there and also help you answer some of those garden questions. I always say I'm turning your Garden of Whedon into the Garden of Eden. That's this guy right here. Let's talk a little bit about the heat. I'm just going to put on my chat there so I know what's going on. It has been indeed quite hot, especially right across the country. I know that we had heat warnings this week in the province of Alberta. Saw some of those in southern BC, in through Saskatchewan, some heat as well. Quebec, Montreal yesterday saw temperatures near the 30s. And not only has it been hot during the day, it's actually been hot during the evenings, warm during the evenings. And plants really need that rest period. And one of the kind of complications that's happened due to us having the warm, extended periods of warm days and also some warm nights is we've been having some things happen to our tomatoes. So I'm going to share that right now with you. And this is a big question that I've been getting quite a bit this week, and I even got it last week as well. And that is, why are my tomatoes not turning red? And if you're noticing that a lot of your tomatoes are taking their time this year, the cherry tomatoes probably went on fairly quickly, but a lot of the beefsteak tomatoes, some of your heirlooms, may by not turning the color as fast as possible because they're underneath what's called heat delay. This week, though, we started to see some evening temperatures into the mid to lower teens. And with that, now we're starting to see the ripening. And I'm seeing some rapid ripening out there on my tomato plants at this current time. So if that is happening, just be prepared. You may get a lot of tomatoes at one time, and then also be prepared, hey, what the heck are you going to do with all those tomatoes? And of course, the best place to store a tomato is, number one, allow it to fully ripen on the vine. After you harvest that tomato from the vine, bring it indoors. Do not put it on a windowsill in the light. It should be in a dark space at room temperature. Doesn't go in the fridge. It'll lose its flavor. Room temperature, in a dark space or darker spot, it's going to last you a long time. That's out there. Carrie Ann is saying Garden of Whedon into the Garden of Eden. Penny is out there saying good morning to me this morning as well. Good morning to you from Brantford. Hey, beautiful place that you could be this morning is in Port Rowan. And of course, that's where Tracy is this morning. Marlene, shout out to you that you're in Brantford this morning as well. Here we go with the question of the day from Michael. Or is it? Yeah, it's Michael. Good morning, Frankie. Longtime listener of your live morning videos. So helpful and makes the solitary activity of gardening feel like a community. Thank you. We are a community. And you know what? When you're in your garden, you're connected. You're connected to nature. And there's a feeling that you're going to get that's out there. And plants actually have feelings and plants have emotion. And through that journey, we'll have success and failure. And we'll get to know a little bit more about ourselves. And along the way, you know, we're also going to have great things that come out of it. A harvest, which is a tomato, an eggplant, a zucchini, a head of lettuce, some onions, or right now you're excited about the garlic that you're just harvesting. There's so much joy that can come from the garden. And the joy also of me sharing with you as well, kind of helping you. You're helping me because I feel like I'm a part of a community. And as well, I'm learning along the way. Answering these questions keep me sharp, keep me on knowledge base there, but as well, I always learn. So Carrie Ann is asking right now, why won't my hibiscus bloom? Okay, let's just break it down. The main reasons why any plant won't bloom. Number one, we got to say, is it getting enough light? Hibiscus need a lot of hours of sunlight. So you need at least 6 hours of sunlight. Afternoon sun is really what it wants. So anytime after 11 o'clock, if it's only getting morning sun up until noon hour, that could be one reason. Second reason, improper fertilizing. So if you're using a fertilizer, there's the 3 numbers in fertilizer: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. If you're using that first number and that's high, you're using a fertilizer that's high nitrogen, you may just be putting on foliage. So no flower. So look at what you're fertilizing. If you haven't fertilized, that could also be that the plant's underneath stress, some waterings that it's missed. Sometimes it'll drop its blooms because it is under stress. The last reason why plant won't bloom is improper pruning. Hibiscus will bloom on new wood, so we really don't have to worry about that. But let's say that we were pruning lilac right now, and then next year we don't have any blooms. Well, that lilac should only be pruned after it flowers because it takes a year to develop those blooms. So take a look at the light. Look at what you're fertilizing, and if you haven't been fertilizing, consider doing that. And then don't really worry about the pruning. But sometimes to stimulate it back into health, what you may want to do is prune it back by 1/3 overall, and that could push it. Now that we're getting a little bit later in the season, you could get some blooms, and hibiscus bloom indoors quite easily as well. You can see how the community here also helps answering the question as well. Replying to Susan Rose, Beetle Be Gone is an amazing product. So you see that Jerry Lynn is helping Suzanne probably, and a lot of people right now are having issues with Japanese beetles, June beetles that are eating their basil, that are eating their roses, that are eating a lot of plants. And that's that hard-shelled insect. And insecticidal soap won't work on those. A new product that came out by Scott's Miracle Grow and by Ortho is Beetle Be Gone. And it's a wonderful product. It actually is a wonderful product and even can work on some of those Asiatic lily beetles as well. Here we go with a comment and or a question. Good morning, to go with Carrie Ann. If I pruned it too far, how do I prepare it for blooming next year? So with the hibiscus, there's nothing that you need to do to prepare it. If you prune it too far, it'll just flush new growth. It's no problem because hibiscus bloom on new growth. So pruning actually sometimes stimulates more growth. So there's nothing really that you need to worry about there. I love that we're combining questions together. That's the whole idea that we're doing here. Just going to adjust myself as well. Good morning, Frankie from Brantford. This is Carmen Dia. I guess it's Carmen Dia. Question for you. The chipmunks are eating my tomatoes. What can I do? Please help. I'm hearing this so much. And I will tell you that chipmunk, squirrels, and even mice and rats are attracted to tomatoes. The only really thing that you can do is cage those tomatoes by putting a pretty tight chicken wire around them. We can put chicken manure around the base. Sometimes it's enough to discourage them from the area because of the smell, the odor. We could put even a statue and or an artificial looking owl maybe near the tomato plants. That owl will be like, the chipmunk will walk up and go, "Oh, owl, that owl may eat me." We'll back off. But really the true solution is caging them. There's a product called Animal Be Gone, but that's going to be used on ornamentals, not edibles, because that Animal Be Gone actually leaves a taste of bitrix on the plants. So it makes it taste like a really bitter cedar. And we don't want that on something that we're eating. Here we go. Question for you too. My hydrangeas seem a bit I gotta learn how to speak. Man, Frank, learn how to speak. Look at that, speaking to myself. So I get this question quite a bit. My hydrangeas seem a little bit leggy. Can I do anything to thicken them up? So sometimes hydrangeas are leggy because we've had other mature trees grow in the area and kind of shade off an area. If that's the case, then you're going to have a leggy hydrangea that's stretching towards the light. So to help improve that hydrangea, we prune some of the overhead branches to put pockets of light in to help it. If that's not the case, let's say that it's an old Anabella Hydrangea. That old Anabella Hydrangea grows up and the blooms are so big that they'll fall over, so we need to stake it. Better variety is Incredible. Incredible actually have stronger stems. Even Limelight has stronger stems than PG. Those are better varieties. Pruning is key. Pruning will really improve the health of a hydrangea. So if it's a hydrangea that blooms on new wood, so it is a white blooming hydrangea or cone-shaped hydrangea, easiest way to describe them. You can prune it down this fall to about 6 inches over the ground. That could help thicken it up. Watering, increasing watering, fertilizing, and improving light, always to improve the health and thickening up that plant overall. This is a good little suggestion as well for Carmen Dia about the cherry tomatoes and tomatoes getting eaten by chipmunks, saying try wind chimes is also. I know even sometimes people will take aluminum foil if they have an issue with birds. They'll take aluminum foil plates and put them around, and those guys there, by moving and the light, will actually distract them. So anything that makes that area less appealing sometimes work. The wind chimes will happen. It'll work for, let's say, 4 or 5 days, and then the chipmunks will get very accustomed to them and continue to do it. Here we go. The question that they have right here. Hi from Eganville. Can I cut back asparagus? So asparagus, we get the spears. The spears are really just the shoots that are coming out, like the eyes, right? So we harvest the eyes. After we harvest the eyes of asparagus, if you've never grown them, we get this really cool ferny looking thing. And it's friggin' huge, right? Really cool and ferny. We got to wait till that yellows. As soon as that yellows, then we can cut it back. Because the reason why that ferny thing is growing there and it's nice and green, it's putting energy back into the root. So if we cut it too early, we're going to stress the root out and then not have as good of asparagus for next season. So as soon as it yellows, that means it's going into dormancy. You can get rid of it. Paula Polly. Hey, Paula. How do I get milkweed from the pod? Do I bury the seeds or lay them on top of the soil? Glad you're asking this question. So, of course, right now you look at milkweed, and really what we want to do is the milkweed is the benefit for monarch butterflies. It's like the number one thing for monarchs. So we can go to a lot of roadsides, and you'll see that milkweed grows pretty much in poor soil. So what we can do now is we can go and we can see some of the drier pods. And let me give you a good, I almost thought that people would ask today a little bit about some seed collecting. So I'll give you a good example here. I'm just going to go to a Chrome tab and we go to seed collecting. So for instance, on this picture that's here, and we're just going to go, this is Garden Gate magazine that talks a little bit about some seed collecting as we go through. I wonder where that picture went. It's a really good picture. I hate all these pop-ups, by the way. But this here is a really good example of showing you, you have your bloom that's in the center, that's in the background right there. You can see the immature bloom because you still have green on the bottom of that stem. And then you see the mature flower head that's there, which is dry. And this is an example of marigolds. And marigolds, that's when we can harvest the marigolds. The same holds true for that seed pod that you're going to look for in terms of, oh, is this guy sharing right now? I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys. I'll get back to that. There we go. Sorry, there's the picture that's right. So you can see right here that and I'm so sorry that I did that wrong for you. So you can see as soon as you see a little bit of that light green on the bottom of that stem, any green in that seed pod, it's immature, right? We're wanting the whole thing to yellow, and then that's when we can harvest. Same thing holds true with the milkweed. Wait till that pod turns that yellow and kind of dries out, and then harvest it. What I would do with the milkweed right now is they're going to get a lot of them. So put some just right on top of the soil and lightly cover with a little bit of soil, but I would not do that until late September, October. However, I would collect and keep a lot of those seeds in a paper envelope. And then what I would do is I would sow those seeds next spring in about the second week of May, second week of May. I would sow them at that time. Because let's say that we were to sow them now, put them down now, and they germinate and we get really cold temperatures, it can actually harm them overall. If we put them a little bit later in the fall and they just sit there dormant, in the spring they'll come and they'll be fine. Or we hold those seeds and just leave them for the spring and they'll do well as well. So there's some good questions for you. Great thing. Here we go with another question this morning from Dimitra. Morning, Frankie. My cherry tree is under distress or is in distress. Leaves are yellow in places and drooping. Leaves aren't eaten. Think it's the heat, drought. So yes, probably it is the heat, the drought that's there. So deep and frequent waterings is what you can do. That'll relieve the amount of stress that cherry tree is going under. What I mean by deep and frequent watering is just essentially putting the hose over there, putting the hose on a slow drip and just leaving it there for a few hours, even 3 to 4 hours. That slow drip will actually soak that area and deeply soak and put some of that moisture full down into the ground. What's happening right now is because we're under a drought condition, even if you quickly water, when that ground is basically dry, it's like a dry sponge. So as soon as we water it, you get a lot of runoff that happens. So what we really need right now is a nice slow rain so to actually saturate, and we need the ground to actually be able to accept moisture. So we need it to get moisture to accept moisture. So that slow, consistent, long watering, which would be a deep watering, and you do that infrequently, do that once a week, you'll see that guy bounce back and be way better. Sapsucker is what the question is right now from Joyce Clark. The sapsucker is killing my mountain ash. How can we deter them? Basically continue to cut. So what they mean by sapsuckers, forgive me, is you'll have a tree, and you'll see this sometimes on linden. You'll actually see this a lot of the times on standard PGs, catalpas as well. So you have that bottom stalk that comes up, and then you'll have the canopy. At the bottom of that stalk, right around here, you'll see these things going boom, 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 coming out. You got to continually cut those sapsuckers back. That puts more energy to the canopy. What's doing right now is those sapsuckers are trying to draw that energy down. And even along the stem or the trunk of that tree, anytime you see anything that's branching out, cut them back, cut them off. That's what you can do. And I know it's a little bit of work, but that's what you can do. Karen. Hi, Karen. How you doing today? I hope you're doing well. Good morning, Frankie. How often should we be fertilizing our annuals? Thank you. So if they're in containers, you can do half strength, and you could actually even fertilize them half strength with the water soluble. You can be fertilizing them weekly. I usually like to do them bi-weekly, at least once to twice a month with a full strength water soluble fertilizer. I generally water my garden first, and then I use the water soluble thereafter. You can start cutting your fertilizing back in about mid-September because that's when things are going to slow. Daylight hours a little shorter, and we can reduce our fertilizing at that time. And you can do that even with some annuals in the flower gardens as well. I just fertilized with Miracle Grow last week, and you'll notice a difference, especially right now. If your containers are looking a little tired, a little weak, let's say the Calibricolas, which are the Million Bells, are looking meh. The petunias are looking, like the wave petunias, things like that are looking a little bit tired. Fertilizing will help, and even just cutting them back by a third to a half, they're going to branch out and help out as well. Question that we have here about cucumber beetles. Joe, any tips for fighting cucumber beetles so we can pick and swish, right? That's one way. We can put a floating row cover over the top so they can't land on the cucumbers. That's another way. We can use Beetle Begone. Beetle Begone is that product that you'll find at your home improvement stores or at your independent garden centers. So you can find it anywhere from a Canadian Tire, a Lowe's, a Home Depot, to a Terra Nurseries, to a garden gallery, to even your local garden center. If they're not in stock, let them know and they'll get it for you. Here we go. What's this? Laugh out loud, Joyce. LOL. Know the bird, Frankie. LOL. Here we go. This is, do you believe in freezing your seeds? This is for Tracy Barber. So Tracy, good question, because there is 3 different words in seed starting. So we have scarification. So for hard seeds, let's say for an instance, even sometimes a pea seed's quite hard. We can actually scrape it with a nail file to actually weaken the coat. Soaking is another thing that we can do. Soaking the seed means that we soak it before we sow the seed, and we put it in water for 12 hours. Then we sow it. Stratification is where we're putting seeds in freezing seeds. Some seeds need to be stratified, need to be frozen. Most seeds do not need to be stratified. Most seeds need to be in a dark, dry, cool space. That's the key. Sometimes in the refrigerator is good, and putting them in the refrigerator, not in the freezer. But there is some moisture in the refrigerator. Sometimes a fruit cellar is good, but the key is dry and dark. That's why you'll put them in a paper envelope. And the reason why you do it in a paper envelope is that paper envelope will actually draw some moisture away from those seeds as well. Sometimes the silica gels that we actually have in when we buy things from Amazon or whatever, we get those little silica packets. If we actually put some of those, if we have a lot of seeds, if we put some of those silica packets as well, that'll help with your seeds as well. Pam saying good morning. Good morning to you, Pam, as well. Here we go, a question as well. Dennis, I wish I could share a picture of my butternut squashes. This has been the best growing season I've ever had. They're over a foot now. Makes me happy. Also in a container. Dennis, you can grow anything in pots. And if you want to share that photo, what I would love you to do is you can actually email me your photo, frankie@frankieflowers.com. That's with an IE. Frankie@frankieflowers.com with an IE. And then I can share that on the Facebook page and show. And for those out there that want to share some of your successes, let's do it. This is a great idea. So send me, frankie@frankieflowers.com, those pictures of your garden successes. Maybe a huge sunflower, maybe a beautiful daylily that became a double. Some of those garden surprises that are out there. Let's this week show garden successes. And then as well, it'd be great if you guys could take some pictures of your garden fails where you failed up. Let's call it failed up. And then that way we can show, because gardening, where we'll have a success, we're going to have a failure. I think this week, if you're looking at my Instagram or you looked at my Facebook, you could actually see my fail with my clematis or my clematis. All of a sudden it was doing fantastic. And then I went away and it was like, cut it back. It's starting to flush out now. And it's going to come back overall. So that's some good advice at the start. Okay, speaking of which, I actually had the possibility of somebody having a garden failure that's out there. So I do want to share my screen again. So let's share my screen again. And we're going to go over to the Chrome tab right now. And we're going to go to this right here. One thing I want you guys to be aware of right now that we are heading a little bit later in the season is late blight on tomatoes. So if you're starting to see your tomatoes start to get kind of brownish stems, the leaves starting to look like they're rotting, that's a sign of late blight. If we have one plant that's doing that, pull the plant, clean up all the leaves, discard that plant, discard that foliage, put it to the curbside, because it'll lose the other plants. It'll actually spread to your other plants that are out there. So if you're seeing signs of late blight, go out and make sure that you remove those and get rid of them. That's kind of key. That's overall. I also wanted to share with you guys as well another little picture that I posted today for some inspiration as well, because we just talked about that container, right? That he grew that beautiful squash in that container. So something that I showed as well is the one thing that was really apparent to me when I was in the Netherlands and in Amsterdam is just how many containers are used. So everywhere you go in downtown Amsterdam, there's not a lot of land. Actually, there's no land. There's a lot of sidewalks and patios and boat tops and different things. So it basically shows you that they go and get inspired and they grow everything and anything in containers. And you can see how these containers make dull spaces really amazing, interesting places. So if you do have areas of your property right now, it's maybe you could do some containers for fall and put some mums in for fall. Here's a look at just one of the corners there. And this was a beautiful space as well. Think about using containers and think about not just a solo container. A lot of times people just put one container. You can see here that these are in groupings, and the grouping of containers adds personality to the space, but also makes it look like, hey, community, family. It's like that was meant to be there. Those guys, they look so good together. And, that's just an example of how a little bit of color can make a beautiful sky, a beautiful canal, some beautiful architecture look that much better. So, you know what? Even though we're in fall right now, still think about growing things in pots. Still think about your containers that are over there as well. Good morning from Barry. Sarah, good morning to you. A whole selection of my Japanese maple section, that is, of my Japanese maple died. What do I do? If it's completely dead, you can go ahead and prune it. I don't really recommend early season and even an earlier summer season to prune a maple. But if that section's dead, we want to give energy back over to the rest of the plant. Make sure it's dead. Go over to the stem before you prune it. And with the stem, you're going to take your fingernail or even just take a nail file, scrape a little of the bark. If that bark underneath appears white and or green, maybe one section just got what's called sun scorch, sunburn, and it does happen under heat. So you may want just to do some light pruning instead of pruning the whole stem and see if it bounces back. But make sure, and if it is, you're better off to prune the stem that's dead than to leave it on. Here we go as well from Robin. Thanks, Frankie, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. I'm always learning. Continue to learn. My favorite line, always, guys. If you're green, you're growing, right? That means if you're learning, you're growing. And we can learn about the garden. We can learn about ourselves. We can learn about architecture. We can learn about technology. There's so much to learn. Learn about parenting. That's something that I learn all the time. If you're ripe, if you're in a position in your life right now where you're bored and you're ripe, you're going to rot. So even if you're retired, grab a book that you can do some learning, challenge yourself. Challenging yourself gives yourself purpose and makes you a better version of you. That's what I'm always trying to be, a better version of me. Mary, Miracle Grow, the seeds, how do you utilize? Because I've always used the solution one. Oh, so this is, Miracle Grow is, she's probably talking about not the seeds, she's talking about the granular version of Miracle Grow. So most granular versions of Miracle Grow are a shake and feed. And take a look at the shake and feed. If it is a shake and feed, once you apply that, it'll actually go down and last for up to 3 months. So if you applied it early season in May, June, July, we're in August, now is where you want to be using a water soluble. Okay. Some of the granular fertilizers from Miracle Grow, the organic varieties, are not a solar base. They're just a granular fertilizer. So you apply them and you can apply them a few times. The only thing about a granular fertilizer is when you water or it rains, it actually releases the fertilizer. So it doesn't give you a controlled application of fertilizer. So you can utilize it first to make sure if it's a slow release, look at it and see if it says lasts up to 3 months. If you apply it now, we're at August, So it would be pretty much September, October, November. You could apply a little bit right now if you wanted to. It's not going to do any harm, but I don't know if it's the best use of your money that you've invested in that fertilizer. I would use a water soluble. Question out there, Lisa, if the leaves on Cannas look worn or eaten, can you cut them back to refresh? Indeed, most definitely. Even when the canna puts on that, I was with my friend yesterday, and the canna lily, she was asking me, hey, when it actually has those little bulbs on the top, those little round things, what do I do? Cut it off. That'll actually put a new bloom on. Any leaves that are looking eaten, beaten up, cut them off. That'll actually put more health to the plant and really get it going overall as well. Oh, this is the question that Joyce had. Sapsucker birds. Oh, okay. There you go. Are drilling holes into my mountain ash. If that's the case, if it's a sapsucker bird or indeed even a woodpecker that's doing that, Joyce, you have an insect in your mountain ash. Call an arborist. There's really nothing you can do because no systemic insecticides are available for use. If they're going in, drilling into that tree, that shade tree, that maple, that mountain ash, that other trees that are out there, probably it's an ash borer that you have, you need to get an arborist to come in and take a look at it and see if there's a treatment mechanism that they can do. And I would get on that right away. Call your local arborist. They're the ones that they need as well. So, Julia, doesn't milkweed need to go through stratification? Milkweed does need to go through a period of stratification, but in early spring, it will go through a little bit of dormancy as well. So you can store those seeds. They will still germinate without going through a period of stratification, but it will benefit from stratification. So that's something that I should have mentioned as well. With the milkweeds, put them in a dry space, but about 2 to 3 weeks before sowing them outdoors, that's when you pop them into the fridge for a couple weeks and you will be fine. It's over there. Thank you, Julie, for doing that as well. See, sometimes I don't tell all the details. Sometimes when you're fast, and this is why the community's here. Community keeps me in check, adds to the conversation, and make sure that we help this group of gardeners be boom, bloom, better, better, and better. Frankie, I have all kinds of cucumbers on my blooms on my cucumber, but no fruit. So you have all male flowers. If you're wondering why you have all male flowers, that also happens when we're under a lot of heat. So now that we're cooling off, I would remove a bunch of those flowers. 50% of the flowers on that cucumber plant, remove them right now at that time. It should, as we cool down, set some fruit that's happening there, and that'll help you out. The reason why it's hesitant to set fruit is it's under stress. And by being under stress and it's been so hot, it doesn't want to set fruit because it'll put too much energy and kill the plant. So that's the reason. This is another impact of the hot temperatures, which is called heat delay, and the way that plants are trying to benefit themselves and try to survive overall. Plants are the coolest thing, guys. Mary, good morning, Frankie. Good morning to you too, Mary. Question, I think, right here from Star Kiss. Star Kiss, what a name, what a name. My basil has now overgrown and flowering. Can I cut it back? And will it have more leaves? Yes. As soon as any herb or herb out there is going into a bloom period, you must cut it back. Remove all the flowers because they'll put energy to the flowers. That's why you're getting no leaves. So just go there with a pair of scissors. Later today, when the sun's a little bit lower in intensity at around 6 o'clock, give it a cut, even cut it back 50%. Give it some water, give it some fertilizer, and you should get some new blooms that are on there, as long as it's not getting a blight, because you can get a late blight as well on basil as well. Carol. Hey, Carol. Good morning, Frankie from Quebec. Our nights are getting cold. My burning bushes are turning color already. Northern Quebec, you'd start to see some signs of fall. We're starting to feel a little bit of that coolness in the air as well. And that's where we know that summer's coming in. That's why you got to savor summer overall. That's why I'm taking tomorrow off. That's why I'm doing this on a Saturday. So I want to take the full day tomorrow. I want to enjoy the full day tomorrow. What can I do to help my sun-scorched maples? Continue to water them deeply and frequently. Just shake the maple tree and see if you can get some of the scorched leaves that are off of that. That's all you can do. And really the key is a nice continual watering so it doesn't go into winter sitting under stress. The sun scorch actually causes stress. So if we don't water, allow it to go to a drought period, it's a dry fall and goes into winter dry, it'll probably die. Deep and frequent water. Soak that eye a couple times. Help them out. Samantha, help! White sticky film on my mandevilla. What is this? Seems to be killing my plant. So that is indeed a sign of an insect. Sometimes that white sticky film could even be scale. So look to the back side of the mandevilla leaves that are there. Look, I would just initially do a treatment of a bug be gone, an insecticidal soap like bug be gone. I would do a couple treatments, do a treatment now, 7 days, do another treatment. If it is scale, bug be gone won't be as efficient to work with. So just look online on treating scale. There's some things that you can do with alcohol and alcohol swabs. Put the Anabella if it's indoors, outdoors. Sometimes some beneficial insects will go and eat the scale as well. Okay, we're going to take one more question here as well. I'll give a shout out to Matthew Amos that's watching right now. Bonnie, hey Frankie, I just planted my hydrangea this summer. What do you suggest to protect them over winter? Bonnie, if it's a macrophilia, a large leaf hydrangea, which is blue and or pink, and it has those thicker leaves, in the fall, I would just remove any flowers that are there. I would then even put like a cage, almost, even if you took chicken wire and built a ring around it that made it higher, stuff that full of leaves after the leaves have fallen, just to give a little extra insulation. That'll be beneficial. Or even putting a rose hood over top of that plant will really help. If it's not, if it's an Invincible, an Incredible, it's an Anabella, a PG, a Fire and Ice that'll bloom on new wood, just cut it back. Just cut them back to about 8 inches above the ground. The reason why we want to leave a little bit of that hydrangea there in the winter is that when the snow comes, it actually collect around the base of that hydrangea, and then that'll be an insulator, and that snow is a good thing. Okay, guys, we're just over 30 minutes today. I hope you guys have a great Super Saturday overall. I hope you guys got some benefit. I hope I motivated you, stimulated you, maybe inspired you today to get out there and to grow. Right after this, I haven't watered my gardens. I'm going to water them nice deeply right now because I'm going to be away for tomorrow. For those out there that joined me today, thank you. Kindness, gratitude. Love you all. Health and happiness. Keep blooming. Keep being you, people.